We're a global organisation. IChemE was founded in 1922, but it's grown to its present incarnation, where there are 44,000 IChemE members scattered all over the world. The little orange men and women you can see on this map indicate areas where IChemE has some kind of presence, and you will spot some rather obvious locations like Houston here. Perth doesn't have a little stick, man or woman, but we have Australia, we have New Zealand, we have Southeast Asia, you can see Nigeria, obviously a lot of activity in Europe. And today, around about 45% of IChemE members are based outside of the United Kingdom. And when you look at the undergraduate population, around about 27, 28% of the undergraduate population is female. So when we look at engineering disciplines across the piece, it's clearly the case that there are more young women in chemical engineering than any of the comparable benchmark disciplines. So we offer qualifications that are globally recognized. We have offices and partnerships in many, many different locations. We have members who we describe as senior ambassadors, who act as advocates for IChemE and for chemical engineering in many, many different parts of the world. We accredit university courses. Many of you will have come from departments where the course is accredited by IChemE. We accredit company training schemes, including at Exxon, Mobil, and we offer training of different types, different aspects of chemical engineering and transferable skills in all sorts of different parts of the world. And there are special interest and member groups in many parts of both the UK and the country more generally. So Exxon Mobil is a top 10 employer of IChemE members. It's a real pleasure to be here to talk to you this year. I wanted to do something rather different to that which my colleague Dr. Alana Collis did last year, and I want to talk to you about why networking in the broader sense is important. I'm going to start off, you chemical engineers, you'll like this, with a simple definition. This comes from the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. That's my professional body, or one of them. And networking is meeting informally with others who have a common interest or have common interests and which could potentially benefit your personal or business needs. And I want to pick out 4 words. So there's 4 words in this definition that are important. Networking, in the sense that I'm talking about it here, is informal. There's no agenda, there's no real structure, there's no plan. Networking can happen in many, many different environments and locations. And it's all about making contact and finding common ground with people who have an interest in common with you. It might be that that's a technical or a professional interest, but it may not be the only reason why you find common ground with another individual and you choose to add them to your personal network. And I've also highlighted the words personal and professional. There are many relationships that you will strike up in the early stage of your career on a personal basis that could benefit you professionally at some point way down the track. You don't know where it is. I'll give you an example. I was recently approached at IChemE and asked, did I know how to get hold of a High Court judge? Well, I don't know how to get hold of a High Court judge, but as it happens, I knew a man who could. Because one of my close friends when I was an undergraduate law student, now a QC, obviously that individual is the sort of guy who's going to have the phone numbers of the go-to people for High Court judges. So I speak to my good friend, and I say, I need the phone number of the PA for Lord Justice Haddon Cave. Okay, you get the number straight away. I can get through to Lord Justice Haddon Cave, and Lord Justice Haddon Cave, who was he chaired the inquiry into the RAF Nimrod disaster. It's a classic sort of process safety failure case study, and on the basis of getting the phone number of his PA, I was able to invite Haddon Cave to come and give the second Trevor Klett's Memorial Lecture at our Hazard Conference. Now, if I'd have tried to get to Haddon Cay through conventional routes by writing a letter to the Royal Courts of Justice, arguably it would never have worked. So I'm thinking, who do I know who might know how to get a phone number that can get me through to this person? And I went all the way back into my past 25 years to find somebody who could potentially come up with that phone number. And that's the important thing. I don't have a professional relationship with the individual who gave me the phone number, but my personal relationship allowed me to find a piece of information to do something that turned out to be extremely successful at IChemE. So it's about the professional and it's about the personal. Why should we do it? I'm absolutely certain that Exxon Mobil would recognise this. It's a vital soft skill or transferable skill. It's not thermodynamics, it's not mass transfer, it's something that allows you to operate effectively in a business space, because the degree to which you are networked will shape in many ways your ability to succeed both in the personal and the professional sense. It will generate countless opportunities for you if you do it right. It gives you an in to what I describe here as unadvertised vacancies, but it will also give you information about projects and corporate and industrial activity that you would not find advertised in the wider public domain. So it's like it's a form of intelligence gathering. The well-networked member of staff has intelligence and knowledge and information about what is happening in the broader sense in the space or spaces in which they operate. So that means that you will be hugely valuable to your employer if you are a connected individual. Like so many things, there are a set of values that I believe you have to adopt if you want to do this effectively and well. The most important consideration for anybody that you would seek to have in your network is you want people who are genuine. You want people who wish to network with you for the right reasons, and they need a degree of what I call authenticity. You want people who are authentic and real and true to themselves and true to their profession or whatever their commercial or business activity might be. It'll help others as much as it will help you as an individual. And as I said a few minutes ago, the networks that you make and you establish now at this point in your career will actually stand you in good stead 10, 20, 30 years down the track, who knows. So those values that underpin the rationale for establishing business networks are really, really important. So integrity, trust and a willingness to collaborate are essential if you are going to network successfully. Now I want to talk about something very briefly that's called personal mastery. Personal mastery is an expression which is attributed to a business thinker called Peter Senge, and by personal mastery I mean understanding who you are, what you want, and having some idea of how you think you are going to get there. Because if you understand your goals and your ambitions, should you aspire to work at Exxon Mobil or indeed anywhere else, then you need to understand what is unique and what is strong about you that will allow you to succeed in this case, in an Exxon Mobil environment, potentially. It's about having a degree of self-awareness so that you understand your capabilities. You have an understanding of your weaknesses and your strengths. You also need an understanding of your own values, your own drivers, what it is that motivates you, what it makes you who you are. And in order to network successfully, if you pursue what I call win-win, there's something in this for me, but there's something in this for the other guy or gal as well, then that will actually allow you to network more effectively. And I also mentioned here briefly the need to develop a personal brand. You know, what is brand you? What is it that makes you distinct and different and stand out? It could be the way you dress, the way you act, the way you speak. It could be the sort of things that you talk about, what you are known as an expert or an authority in. But you want to try and define yourself so that others will think, ah, yes, I know her because she sticks in my mind because, and that's about your personal brand. Because if you have the ability to develop your own brand, then you kind of cultivate the power to stand out when you're in a crowd. And the ability to stand out in a crowd and be recognized for who you are and what you know is something that will come as you become a more networked individual. So this personal brand thing is about you, and it's about what you have to offer. If you Google personal brand, you'll find an awful lot of commentary about this. It's important that you think about how you develop what I'll call brand you. Know what you want, know how to talk about it, and share your knowledge. Because if we think about the expression, what goes around comes around, if you share your knowledge, then things will flow back to you. You help people, they will help you. That's been my experience throughout my working career, and I see absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be the experience that you enjoy through your working careers as well. So how do you succeed? Well, I would like to think that you should move in different circles. You are here in this room, I guess, because you are considering pursuing a career in energy, oil and gas, but I would like to think that is not all you do. That is not where you will all end up in due course, and therefore it's important to you that your network includes people in circles other than simply oil and gas space, and that's of no disrespect whatsoever to our hosts and colleagues from Exxon. I'm sure they want you to talk to people who understand things other than oil and gas and chemical and process engineering too. So this means you have to keep an open mind. You know, when you meet somebody for the first time, you do not know what they know. You do not know what they do, and you don't know who they know either. So treat every potential interaction with an individual you meet as an opportunity to build and extend your network. And the best way to do that is to listen. Actively listen all the time, and actively listen to the responses that you get from the open questions that you ask, the questions that don't have simple yes/no answers. I say here, don't be negative. Don't be negative about anybody if you can avoid it, but in the community that we inhabit, and by we I mean chemical engineers, it's actually a relatively small world. And I have found out things in Perth about what was going on in Grangemouth, and I have heard stuff in Houston about people that I've met in Kuala Lumpur. And so it's a very, very small world. So if you diss people, then there is a very, very serious risk that those individuals that you have been disrespectful about may get to hear about the remarks that you made in what you thought was a relatively informal, private setting somewhere else in the world. So please don't be negative about other people, and also don't be negative about yourselves. Don't undersell yourself. You know, be positive and have a positive frame of mind whenever you go into a networking situation. One of the pitfalls that I find when I talk to younger engineers is they claim they don't know anything, so how can they possibly be useful in a network? Well, I actually think that's a fallacy. I actually think that you probably know an awful lot, you just don't know quite how to talk about it and how to articulate it. So volunteer what you do know. Volunteer information on the stuff that you've read, the stuff that you've heard. Become a resource for other people. Let other people know that you're connected, you're open-minded, and you're positive. And armed with that, those sort of principles, then in your own professional networks and through your careers, I have no reason to believe that you won't go as far as you possibly can. There are some pitfalls. You've all met pushy people. You know they're pushy people. You'd probably rather spend time in the company of others. So think about this when you are in a networking situation. Don't overdo it. Please don't oversell yourselves. Know where the boundaries are. I also talk about something called digging the well when thirsty. This goes back to my colleague, the law student, who got me the phone number for the High Court judge. That was a piece of information. That was some knowledge that I probably picked up 25 years ago, right? You don't go out and try, the boss will sometimes come and say, Andy, can you find out something about X? If I'm going to do that from a standing start, it's very, very difficult. But if I think about my network, I think about my contacts, I think about who I can ask, people I may have met years past, then clearly that makes me a more useful and connected IChemE employee. I call it digging the well when thirsty because if you've got a drought in your village, that's the wrong time to be digging the well. You should have dug that well 10, 15 years ago so that water was available at a time of drought. Business card confetti, it's a kind of funny story. You often see people, they give away their business cards like confetti. I will tell you on an occasion where I was sitting at a dinner, I think it was black tie because there was certainly some sort of display in the middle of the table that actually had a sort of lit candles. A guy comes round, was a guy, says hello, starts to deal out his business cards like confetti. One lands in the middle of the candelabra and catches fire. Okay? The business card is a very, very personal thing. You should give it at the end of a conversation rather than at the beginning. You should use it as an opportunity to sign off. In fact, it's a very, very good way of signing off a call, signing off a conversation by saying, look, it's been a really interesting conversation. Let's keep in touch. Drop me an email when you get back to the office. But don't shower a room full of business cards because it probably signals you don't really care about the people that you've given the business cards to. So if you have business cards, and by the time you reach your final year, I think you all should have a card because it's much easier than reaching for a pen and paper to give out a phone number or an email address or a social media connection. You can get business cards quite cheaply these days. Something with your name, mobile phone number, and email address may be very, very useful when you're in the networking space looking for employment or training opportunities and so forth. Unprofessional information. Lots of people get email addresses when they are younger, and they may come to regret those email addresses when they are older. If your email address happens to be, I don't know, hotlips55@yahoo.com, you may want to think carefully about whether or not you put that as the contact email address at the top of your CV. It might sound silly, but believe you me, we see CVs from time to time with the most curious email handles, and you may want to think about yours. I'm sure that you've all got perfectly safe and anodyne email addresses, but it's always worth checking. And also, unprofessional information. We now live in an era that didn't exist when I started out on my career. There is so much information available about us on social media. If you go on holiday and you have your holiday snaps on the beach, wherever, and you post them on Facebook, you abandon the copyright. There is the potential that those photographs could end up anywhere. So be very, very mindful about the kind of things that you post about yourself on social media, because a good employer is going to do some degree of due diligence, and that due diligence can involve background checks on social media. So be careful what you say about yourselves, and be careful about what others say about you too. Do not stick with people you know. There is nothing worse than sitting down at a table when you go to an event and you turn around to the person on your right and you ask them where they're from, and they say, oh, hi, I'm from ABC Engineering. And then you go, ABC Engineering, ABC Engineering, ABC Engineering. You find out that everybody from that company sat on the same table. They are wasting their registration fee. If you go to events with colleagues, split up, meet up again later. Go and work the room separately. But you know, if you stick with your own company, arguably you're in the wrong company, unless you need that individual, your friend or your colleague, to come and rescue you. And I'll touch on that in a minute. Skipping the small talk. It's another turn of phrase. Small talk is some of the biggest talk you can actually do. It's that small talk that allows you to establish a relationship with people. The icebreaker that you use in order to find the common ground that allows you to have a conversation with a stranger is crucially important. So don't skip the small talk. Don't dive straight in with the request for a job offer. You've actually got to sort of fertilize the ground a little by building the conversation very slowly and starting off with conversations about the lousy drive around the M25 that you had to get to Leatherhead today, which is why you're 25 minutes late. And it's the first time I've been in this building since, it's 10 years since I've been here last. I can see there's been some changes. I understand you've got a tenant now. We're not talking about anything to do with Exxon Mobil necessarily. We're talking about things that actually get the conversation started, and that can be really, really important. And also, I think you can network absolutely everywhere. I like to network in the queue at the airport. You look down, you see somebody's got a airline loyalty program tag from an airline that you don't use. It could be Emirates, it could be British Airways, it could be Virgin. You say, you know, I see you're with Virgin. I had a really, really dreadful experience last time I flew out east with Virgin. How are you finding these days, or whatever? Because that means you then start to make some common ground. Okay? So look for the little signals that people give you that will allow you to start a conversation with them. It's a fine balance between being intrusive and being interested, and you'll only find that balance point by trying. But you know, you can network absolutely anywhere, and it's not just in the networking session at the event. It can be in the queue for the coffee break. It can be in the queue for lunch. It can be even waiting for the transportation away from the event afterwards. So you know, there isn't a sort of networking space and a non-networking space. If you want to do this properly, you can network absolutely anywhere. Look, ask yourself some straightforward questions. Who's going to be there? What's the format? Check the timings. Where is it? What's the dress code? What am I going to talk about? Because there are always people who turn up and they missed the fact that it was black tie or evening dresses, or they suddenly find they're the only person in the room who isn't following some sort of dress code because they didn't research the event. They didn't realise it would take 20 minutes to get there rather than the 5 that it allows to turn up late. You know, so these things, common sense in many respects, but you know, there is a saying, common sense sometimes ain't so common. So go through this simple checklist, and after the event, don't forget to follow up. Don't forget to send in a little thank you note. Don't forget to follow up with the people that you've contacted. When you go into a room full of strangers, it's a deeply unnerving experience, but there are actually only 6 different types of thing going on in the room. And if you understand the 6 different types of thing that go on in the room, it'll be easier and less unnerving for you. So there are open and closed groups. There are people who will want to talk to you, and there are people who won't, and you can read those signals from their body language, and when you've read those signals, you can take the plunge. My favourite is what I call the lost soul. When confronted with a scary character like this, you simply have to go up to the individual standing on their own and say, "Hi, I'm Andy from IChemE. May I join you?" Now, you can judge how terrifying that is for yourselves, but I'm telling you that the individual on their own at a networking event is really, really waiting for somebody to come and say hello to them. And if you are new to this, and you want to actually, you want to sort of ease your way in gently, go up and introduce yourself to the person who's on their own. I always make a point, I go to lots of networking events, but I always make a point of talking to people who stand on their own, because you never know what you're going to find out from them. They may be hugely interesting and hugely useful to you. You see someone on their own, go talk to them. Couples and pairs, now, these cartoons don't really do this justice. but you look at the body language of people in the room, and if they are standing in something akin to they're standing more or less side by side, and they've left a kind of space. If you think about the 3 points of a triangle, 1 point, 2 point, there's a space here. This space is your invitation. This space says, come up and talk to these two guys, talk to the individual who's talking or in mid-flow and say, hi, I'm Andy from IChemE, do you mind if I join you? Now, 99% of the time, they'll say, yeah, please come in. We were just talking about the price of oil or the price of fish or wherever. You know, they are there to network, and they are standing in that configuration because they want people to come up and say hello. When you see people standing toe to toe, you know, and their heads are a little bit closer together, then it's a reasonable bet that they're talking about something that they don't necessarily want other people to be involved in. So by looking at the couples in the room, looking for the open language or the closed body language, you can pick your moment and introduce yourself. Ignore the two ladies on the right. Go and speak to the guys on the left. As I say, the counting doesn't really do it justice, but I hope you get this idea that there's a point on the third corner of the triangle that allows you to join the conversation. And it's the same with groups of three. You know, the example I've drawn here on the right with the welcome mat, these individuals have positioned themselves in such a way that others can come and join the conversation. And when others join the conversation, maybe we'll split into two groups of two. Where people are standing really close together and the body language suggests to you that it's all a little bit conspiratorial, they're having a gossip about something, then leave that group, give that group a wide berth. But look for the groups that stand in an open configuration. And when you go to networking meetings, think about how you stand with others that you've met. Position yourself so that other people can come and join the conversation. And then the network will expand, you'll make new contacts. A word on crowds. If you're new to networking, it's unwise to go and gate crash a large crowd of people who are talking unless you know somebody in that circle really, really well. And you can go up and you can put your hand on their shoulder and you can almost maneuver them to one side and step into the group, right? I would say at this stage, it's probably unwise for you to try and muscle in to large crowds that are in conversation. How do you get away? I often get asked, how do you actually get out of a conversation you think you've found out everything you want to know? And I said, please avoid boredom signals. One of the worst things that you will find when you're in conversations with somebody in a room is they're looking over your shoulder to see if somebody more interesting can come along so that they can escape. Try and avoid doing this, right? Give that person your full attention for as long as you feel is appropriate, and then make a polite and plausible reason. And my favourite, don't say I'm going to the bar, they might follow you. Right? Don't say you're going to the bathroom, they might follow you as well. Say you've spotted a colleague, this is where your friend that you parted company with when you came in can help you, because you can think, I go to an event with Tara, I talk to someone who's a crashing bore, I see Tara on the other side of the room and I say, look, I don't want to monopolise your company, but there's a colleague over here I really need to talk to. Here's my card, please let's keep in touch, but thanks, it's been great talking to you, and away you go. Now then I can go and talk to my colleague at the other side of the room. Again, there's always a danger that they'll come after you, but as a general rule, they won't. But don't underestimate the power of, listen, there's lots of people here, I'm sure you want to have conversations with others, don't let me monopolise your company, here's my card, it's been great to see you, I look forward to seeing you next time, and away you go. You'll all be familiar with an elevator pitch, I trust. You've got about 20 to 30 seconds to tell everybody who you are and what you do. What's your name? What's your area of work? Where are you based? What do you cover? What's your personal specialism or your offer? Your aims for being there? Try and be a little bit different and end with a question. The obvious question to end with is, what about you? What brings you here? What are you working on at the moment? You know, what's your current project activity? But getting this into 20 seconds is a little bit of a fine art. I would ask you to try and practice it. Try and practice about talking about what you do and covering these bases. in 20 to 30 seconds. And remember to end with the open question that allows the other individual then to reciprocate and give you information about themselves. I want to give you some tips to take away. LinkedIn introductions. I get lots of LinkedIn introductions. The worst ones, and I have to say this is most of them, is just a blank page. They don't say why they want to connect with me. They don't say where they met me. They don't say why I would be of interest to them. When you meet someone and you drop them a LinkedIn request, say, "Hi Andy, it was great to see you at the Exxon Mobil event on last Monday. I thought it was worthwhile staying in touch. I saw this and I thought of you." And a link to a news article or some such, or a useful website. But always try and personalize connecting with somebody via LinkedIn. Touch base with the speakers. I always make a point of looking out for the good speakers at a conference or a technical event and going up and speaking with them afterwards, because you've got a guaranteed in. You can say that was a really interesting point you made about X, and then you've got your start point for the conversation. Another thing that you can do when you go to events where there's a Q&A opportunity is ask smart questions. One of the things I like about chemical engineers, it's not just the smart answers they give, it's the smart questions they ask. And if you ask a smart question in session, when you get to the coffee break, people will come and want to talk to you because you've asked a smart question, right? So it's the icebreaker's already there. That was a really great question you asked in the last session. I thought the speaker was really squirming, right? You know, what made you think of that? And it's just a way of starting the conversation. Always keep records. Much easier now with LinkedIn, obviously, because you can put a tab where you can not put a tab, you can put a little note where you met an individual. But I write on the back of business cards the event where I met an individual, what we talked about, and I just put it in a pile. I do have a Microsoft Office contact folder, put some notes in there also, because that information allows you to nurture the relationship in the future. If you remember those people, I tend to keep business cards for people that I've met in the last couple of weeks on my desk, and when I've got 5 minutes, I'll flick through. I'll think, yes, I thought something that would be of interest to him or her, and then I fire him an email, and it just reignites the conversation, and it gives you an excuse or an opportunity to talk to them. I saw this great article in the Chemical Engineer magazine yesterday. I thought you'd like to see it. Send a link, or it could be the Times, it could be the BBC, it could be Huffington Post or whatever. But it just gives you an opportunity to just demonstrate that you're interested in that individual that you've met and you want to nurture the relationship. And finally, I say this. I mean, look, use your institution. There are two reasons why it's worthwhile holding an IChemE membership card. One is that I believe that it marks you out as a trustworthy professional, or somebody who aspires to be a trustworthy professional, because you abide by a code of conduct and rules and regulations, and therefore it says, hey, you can trust me. And there are many companies, Exxon included, that do encourage people to become members of professional institutions for that reason, because it's an element of, if you like, external validation. And the other reason is you are connected to 43,999 other like-minded individuals through your institution. So those of you that talk to myself, you have a connection to IChemE. You can ask me questions about any of this in pursuit of some knowledge or some information to help you in your job. So there are two reasons. One, trustworthy professional. Two, you're part of a large network. That's just a quick flyby. The best way you can get your heads around the joys of networking is to go out there and do it. It's really, really good fun. And if you are sort of people-orientated people, and I trust that many of you are, then you will have a fascinating experience and an enriching experience by talking to people from diverse backgrounds who can share information and knowledge with you. And I think I knocked it on the head. Thank you very much.